Hello and welcome to the Identity Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Caleb, and I'm so excited for this week's show. It is going to be lovely, and it's really fun to be able to do this show. I just have to say, right before the show, I was talking to our guests about all the different stuff that I do with podcasting and different people, and it's amazing, this podcasting. Who would have thunk that we'd be able to do something that's just so cool every single week? And so thank you as always for tuning into the Identity Podcast. Don't forget that we are presented by Find Your ID NYC. You can like us on Facebook by that name and on Instagram. And you can also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, all at the Identity Podcast. I mean, we're everywhere. You can listen to the podcast on all streaming platforms. Really awesome stuff. And I'm so excited for this week's show as we continue our March series for environmentalism and sustainability. And of course, as we celebrate Women's History Month, we get to celebrate this throughout the nation, throughout the United States, and also a lot of other countries also do observe this throughout the month of March. And it's just absolutely amazing to be able to do that and to be able to have this. And so we're very grateful that all of our guests throughout this month do identify as women. And so that's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to help celebrate. And so I'm very excited for that. But before we get to our episode, we wanted to show you a brand new series that we have with our friends Ivy Rivera and her academy, and of course her Roots Revival Church. And so we are going to actually show you the very first clip of that right here. So go ahead and check that out. We'll see you soon.
Hey folks, Ivy Rivera, Psychic Medium, bringing you episode number 1 of Living in Truth, short stories. Now, this series is based on my TikToks and my YouTube mini classes where people ask great questions, but I just don't have time to get to the full explanation. So for today, episode number 1, we are diving right in with ear ringing. What does it mean? Why does it happen? So also known as tinnitus. What is going on? Left ear, right ear, or sometimes it's both ears simultaneously. And it can be enough to really drive you batty and wonder if something's wrong medically. Now, I'm not here to prescribe or diagnose. By all means, go check with your physician. But when they can't find an answer, or the medications aren't working, or even if you do have tinnitus, you will still get this ringing. What does it mean if it's on the left side versus the right side? The grandmothers used to say left for love, right for spite, and this was fairly accurate. What does that mean? Because the left ear ringing is connected to spirit communication. Now, the right ear is not necessarily spite, as much as it is your higher mind, your psychic ability, your gut instinct, kicking in, giving you a message. Could it be a warning? Absolutely. But it could also be in reference to some significant change that is about to occur. Okay, another common misconception with that is that the left ear ringing, it being love, is not necessarily the case. So spirits that are earthbound, toxic negative spirits, including the living, when they come in too close to your energy field, your ears may ring. This may or may not cause some other physical reactions like an anxiety attack, dizziness, numbness in the face, the mouth, the hands. But if you do sense that there is a spirit there who isn't just accidentally passing by, causing this reaction, but does have a message for you or for you to pass on, what you're going to want to do is to sit quietly for about 5 minutes. I would recommend closing your eyes and asking the spirit directly to show you what the message is. Now, when we're talking about the right ear ringing, again, it could be a warning. It could also be about change coming, and you really need to prepare. Regardless, you want to handle the situation the same way. You are going to want to pay attention to your surroundings. It's almost like taking notes as quickly as you can about everyone that you're talking to at that time, whatever situation you're about to enter into, and paying attention to whatever other messages might be coming in at that time. What came in through your phone? What just popped up in your email? What happened on your social media account, or who just reached out to you? These are all indicators that that is part of the message itself. What I like to do is a general evaluation on everything that went on around the time of the ear ringing, just before, during, and afterward. Then I look at everything and I factor in how exactly this information may affect me going forward. Now, typically you're going to see that whatever occurred or is useful for you is going to play out within several days or maybe up to about 2 to 3 weeks. So what does it mean when both ears are ringing? Well, it can mean that it's such a strong message coming in that you actually have spirits, ancestors, guides, loved ones, and your own higher mind and psychic ability is simultaneously kicking in to make sure that you take note of the information. However, we do also see that ear ringing commonly occurs when someone's receiving a download. Check out this class to learn more. A download is a set of instructions being installed into you directly through the crown typically, or sometimes through the heart chakra. Often when we see downloads occur, it's because you're approaching a deadline or you are in the process of surpassing a deadline. So we have to remember that everything within our life contract, everything we've agreed to do when we came to Earth is on deadline. The other interesting thing about ear ringing is that it's connected to an ability called clairaudience. Clairaudience is the ability to hear spirits in your mind as though it is your own inner thought or dialogue. So frequently, clairaudience will be activated when you're in the bathroom. The native belief is that a combination of the porcelain, the water, the mirrors, the earth, these are all communication activators, and that's true. So especially when you're in the bathroom, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, what have you, you may find that you gain more insight, that you are more psychic, that you have more visions. You may hear conversations play out in your head that will later occur with people around you or directly with you. And this is a time for spirits to reach out. Clairaudient ability is a tremendous gift, so to speak. Everyone who comes into my Psychic Academy and wants to train wants to have clairaudient ability because it is hearing spirits more easily. However, it does come with great responsibility. It requires that you're more mindful than the average person. Check out this class to learn more. We want to make sure that your thoughts are not being manipulated by negative and lower energies. It's important that you learn discernment and you are only allowing for thoughts to come in from spirits from the light. So let's do a recap. What is the ear ringing? Tinnitus, a pressure in the ears, or a feeling like a seashell is up to your ears. The left side is a spirit trying to communicate. The right side is your higher mind, your psychic ability kicking in. But empaths, especially at the 3rd and the 4th levels, may also get this ringing whenever someone with a really high or really low vibration comes in too close to them. When both ears are ringing simultaneously, it can mean that you have a lot of messaging coming in. It's really important at that time. It can also signify that you are in the process of receiving a download. And the tinnitus is connected to clairaudient ability, the ability to hear spirits in your head as though it is your own thought. If you have this ability, you may want to check out my psychic mediumship course. And I do want to encourage you guys to please post any new topics that you may want to see for upcoming episodes on short stories living in truth.
Once again, hello, I am Caleb, your co-host for the Identity Podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in to our brand new series with our great friend, Reverend Ivy Rivera. And so don't forget to check out her Roots Revival Interfaith Church every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check that out. They are currently streaming due to the pandemic, and they are streaming on all their platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, anything like that. You can check them out. Really amazing. And you can actually find Ivy Rivera Psychic Medium, at her handle on all social media platforms as well. So really amazing stuff. We're so grateful to have that brand new series here for the Identity Podcast. So stay tuned for that about once or twice a month as you get to learn new things. But I think it's time that we introduce our guest. It's very exciting. Don't forget Sustainable Design featuring Elizabeth Lindburg this week right here for the Identity Podcast. And let's go ahead and introduce our guest, Elizabeth Lindburg. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for coming on. It's an honor to have you, and I hope that you have a great time.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Well, that's great. So let's go. If you don't mind, give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you do, and kind of your journey of sorts. Let's go ahead and get into things.
Yeah. So it's a really detailed journey, I'll kind of, because, my main focus is, creative entrepreneurship, but also sustainability. And so I'll kind of, talk about my journey with both of those things. So, growing up, sustainability really, wasn't even a concept too much until I got, more in middle school and whatnot. And so, but before that, even at 13 years old, I wanted a job. I wanted, income of some sort. So my own income. It's not like, my family, we had money, but it wasn't like anything substantial. So I was, making flyers and passing them out around my neighborhood for babysitting. And so that was kind of my first little career. But then in high school, I was introduced to Cutco. So I don't know if you're familiar with Cutco. It's
the knives, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to a private school that was pretty wealthy, so I had a really great clientele there. And that really, it taught me a lot of not only sales, but, personal development and just putting yourself out there and whatnot. So that was a really amazing experience. And I think a lot of people don't really enjoy their experience with Cutco or selling. But for me, I really put my all into it. I, after school, was doing 3 to 4 appointments every single day. On the weekend, I would do it. And we got an opportunity to go to Jamaica at one point. So I went a trip to Jamaica, and it was just amazing to get to experience all that in high school. But along with that, and it's kind of funny thinking back on it, Cutco is pretty sustainable because any of their knives, if you send them back, my dad actually sold Cutco in college, and he pulled out this paring knife that was like, he wrapped duct tape around the handle and it was chipped and just disgusting, horrible knife. And I sent it back to them asking for even a different colored handle, and they sent me a brand new knife. Like, they melted down.
Really?
And yeah, so they're just, I think that was really awesome. Just resourceful type of thing. But so from there, recycling, obviously, I think that's the first thing that people think of when they think of sustainability. And it's just so much more than that at this point. But back then, I think that was our main focus. And actually, I remember my dad, our family was horrible at the paper plates and the plastic utensils. And me and my sister just one day were like, this is awful. Like, we're taking out the trash every single day. Like, the trash you produce is disheartening and it's just unimaginable. So we quickly got my dad away from that and kind of made the household a little bit more sustainable. But going away to college, like, I went to Texas Christian University, and there wasn't really access to recycling there. And I just remember then living in Dallas, and even our apartment complex didn't recycle. And so I would, find a local recycling place that was like 15 minutes away, and I would drive there and take my recycling there because that was really important to me. But at that point, that was really all I was doing. Besides, I was an avid thrift shopper, like Plato's Closet, those stores, like that was my jam. Like, I think at that point I was more just saving money, but like thinking back now, I'm like, okay, I was doing pretty good. Like, and now I think like thrifting is really just the way to go. You find like so many unique just styles, and I was always the person that I would try it on and be like, oh, well, I could change this, I could do this, or make it fit and find a way to make it work. So I think that's just really important for people to pursue and start making more of a habit.
I agree.
Yeah. So from there, as far as career-wise, I went to school for interior design. I think I'm a very creative person, and growing up, I was interested in real estate, and it was actually my dad that was like, I don't think you're gonna like the business aspect of that. And I was like, okay, well, I still really like houses. Like, maybe I'll be an architect. He's like, math is not your strong suit. And I was like, yeah, you're right there. Okay.
I feel that.
Right? I don't want to do that my whole life. So landed on interior design, and I really loved it. It was a really fun creative outlet. And I started working for a firm in Dallas right out of graduation, and doing that 9 to 5. And it took about a year for me to be like, nope, this is not like just having someone be able to control, your schedule, your life, and being on that salary, but sometimes expected to work all weekend with no extra pay just because it's some insane deadline. And having only 10 vacation days and having to ask for that off, that just wasn't what I wanted in life. And I enjoyed going out. I enjoyed having my time with my friends and stuff like that. So, and I was living in Dallas, and Dallas is not really the vibe I was going for. Kind of like keep Dallas pretentious, and they're all about materialistic things and stuff. And I was just like, I don't fit in here. So I just up and decided to move to New Orleans. And my friend lived there, and so I didn't have a place picked out, but I think that everything lines up. And, there was no holding me back from going down there, despite maybe my dad not being too thrilled about it. But I moved down there with a moving truck and my 2 dogs and a cat, and my friend was gracious to be prepared for us to all move in there in her place, even though she had 2 dogs too.
Wow.
It would have been a packed house. But I ended up finding an apartment that, because she had been looking for me for months, but we just didn't find the right place. And within a day, we had found a place that was by far the closest to her, best location, best price, but also like the largest. Nice. It fit like everything I wanted. And it was like, I knew that was the place I was supposed to be at that time. Didn't have a job figured out. So I knew that I kind of possibly wanted to have a dog rescue or dog daycare or own a boutique one day. And so I decided that I would work at both of those and just kind of give it a try, because I think that a lot of people just go to college and then they decide then and there what they're going to do for the rest of their life, and they get into it and they just stick with it even if they're not enjoying it. It's just a steady paycheck, and that's fine. Like, if I totally get like the security of wanting to know where your money's coming from, because gonna be honest, there at first I was like struggling, but I knew that I was following like my dreams and potential and kind of trying out some things. So I gave that a little bit of a try, and I think I learned from working at the dog daycare that working with dogs, that first of all, their owners can afford to send them to daycare. They're probably that like purebred, not well behaved dog, like and I was just like, I really like those rescues that are like, they know what it's like to have been neglected or live on the streets. And so like, they're just love and compassion, and I just think that rescues have a very special place in my heart. And my dream is to start a dog rescue on my farm here in St. Louis. And so that's obviously going to take money. So I have now just been, trying to find a way to make passive income, and that way I can, afford to do that rescue, and passive income will allow me to follow my other dreams and, have that time and gain that time back. So yeah, I quickly got away from the boutique and dog daycare, and I started looking into real estate and wholesaling and a few other things. And I think that's really, I really loved the thought of, taking a house that no longer is able to be livable in and, really renovating it and giving it that new life. And, I don't think there's any reason to do a new build unless it's like past the point of like no return. Like, I get that, but I just thought it was really cool to, be able to give that life back to a house. So I actually started an LLC, Hidden Gem Design Studio, where that was kind of my plan. And I ended up moving back home before I really got much in that, because I was networking and doing a bunch of stuff and learning, the cost of renovating and all of the things that you have to look for. And I was really excited. And I'm hoping to do that here and kind of do like more of an Airbnb type thing that's really related to allowing people to bring their animals with them on vacation, and it was really geared towards that. So that's something I'm excited about starting very soon. But yeah, so other than that, I mean, New Orleans also, people there are pretty earth conscious and stuff like that. But I mean, as far as recycling, towards the end, I think they don't even everyone was still putting out the recycling, but I think it all just ended up going to the same spot. Like, I think the city couldn't afford to actually recycle anymore, and that was really hard to know. Like, I was like, well, I'm still just gonna separate it and just hope,
exactly
what else there is to do. So I mean, I think getting away from there, like New Orleans, I love New Orleans, but it's very easy to get stuck in the party mode and,
I'm sure.
lose focus and stuff like that. So I moved back home right before quarantine hit, which was really, really convenient timing. Because at the time in New Orleans, I was dog sitting. So like I said, I have a huge passion for dogs. So I actually originally started with fostering dogs and very quickly failed with like the second dog. So she became mine. I was like, no one else is getting her. And then the second dog came and they were like, do you want this dog with special needs that like can only pee on the sidewalk? You'll have to hand feed it and like all these other things. And I'm like, I don't think I want that. But I took him on anyway. And I mean, the second I held him, it was like, done. I will do anything with a dog. You are mine forever. But he did have neurological conditions. So he has cost me a lot of money, but it's worth it. Like, I mean, I'm already expecting that with having a dog rescue and having to put that extra money into dogs that aren't perfect. I mean, so that just kind of solidified my love for dogs. But I quickly realized that fostering was not really available at that time because I just kept keeping them. So that's what got me into dog sitting. Because I get paid and I can't keep them.
I don't necessarily think that's a fail. I think it's a good thing. You know, at least they're finding a home, and that's what matters.
Yeah,
you didn't intend it to be your home, but
yeah, no, and that's just the term. People are like fail. I'm like, well, yeah, it was a win for me and the dog, but but so I started dog sitting, and it was actually funny because I was like, well, I have, I'm dog sitting and getting paid, but I miss helping those dogs find those new homes. Like, and so and I was like, I have my hands full with these two. And so my first one back into fostering, I brought home and I immediately told my mom about it because she was a little Chihuahua. And my mom's Chihuahua at the time was 16 and really sick. And so she was like, oh, well, I'll take her. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that's kind of still a fail. It's a fail in the family, but like, I would love to keep her in the family. And so she ended up having heartworms. So she had to stay in New Orleans with us for 2 months, which at that point I was like, sorry, she's part of the family now. You can't. So yeah, that's just little tangent on my dog.
No, I think it's fascinating, and that's the great thing about this, discussing your journey, your identity, and it has a part of you. Yeah. It is a part of you, and that's exactly the show is all about your identity and leading to where you are today, and you're trying to do different things, and that's what's so fascinating is the fact that you are this creative entrepreneur and you are getting into different things with sustainable design and lifestyle, but you're also trying to do things that aren't necessarily just for humans, but also for animals, for dogs, and you're doing different things that are allowing to give back, but also to continue to create. And I think that's the whole thing about this series is the beauty of we get to talk about the environment, we get to talk about sustainability, but we also get to talk about the different factors into sustainability and how we get to create and transform different things. You talked about thrifting. Thrifting's a great thing. Half my closet, thanks to thrift shops, and my Hawaiian shirts. And that's what's great about it is the fact that we get to buy something that is cheaper and has been thrifted, but we also, as you said, I can try it on and be like, what, I get to do this cool thing, I get to bedazzle it, or I can cut off the sleeves or anything like that, and that's what's cool about it. And it's something that is unique in its own way, and it allows us to put another lens on our identity, and that's what we're trying to do with life. Is we're just going throughout each day, just trying to continue to define ourselves, because as we've come to recognize in the show, and as I've come to recognize, identity is this ever-changing thing that will never be able to put a full definition or little point on, because there is no such thing. It's today I can think one thing and tomorrow it could be something completely different, but that's what's beautiful about it, right? And so I think for your journey, my point of this is for your journey is it defines who you are, right? And whether it be all about dogs or whatever it may be, it's the fact that you've had a journey. You went from Texas Christian to Dallas to New Orleans to now back in St. Louis, and you are here trying to figure out your next step, but also realizing this is what I want to do. But here's other things that I can do, not only for income, but things that I can do that will lead me to my dream, but are also really good for things, healthy for me, healthy for the environment, and all sorts of things. And that is so important. And on the show, I think that's huge. And so as we kind of gear up here, and I think we actually, my lovely co-host Tarek, I think, is ready to go.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
How's it going, Tarek?
All is well. The lighting's a little off, but we're here. I'm just listening. It's super awesome story so far.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, go ahead, Caleb. Take us away.
No, you're fine. Well, I think what we can kind of move into now is we can talk even more about specifics. I think is great. And so,
Sure.
if you don't mind, Elizabeth, talking a little bit more about certain things, but let's talk about design. You have this passion. You did interior design and everything, and now you're kind of getting to like the sustainable like lifestyle design and everything. How does that kind of come to fruition?
Yeah. So I mean, I think with design, design is form and function, but I think a new aspect that really just needs to be considered at all times with anything you design is sustainability. If you're not thinking about the full picture of what you're designing, then it's a failed design, honestly, for our future, for our now, for our planet. That kind of goes into a point of cycle. I have it written. It's like Heendrum Mumperdrum is the one actually who promoted, she even said she had a shirt that says design equals form plus function plus sustainability. And she just kind of talks about this whole life cycle assessment when you're designing something. So you're thinking about what it takes to manufacture that product and, getting it, all the products, everything that goes into making it, then how you put that together, how is that impacting the planet and its afterlife? So where is that product going once you're done with it? Is it going to go sit in a landfill? Could it be repaired? And is it actually built to last for a long time? Because if it's not, which we know so many technologies and so many things aren't built that way. They're kind of thinking, just trying to, like cell phones, hoping that you have to go buy a new cell phone, or just any equipment nowadays. It's sad that that's kind of the approach a lot of companies went through. And for a while, people didn't think long term. They weren't thinking about the planet and its effects, and that's gotten us to where we are now, which is not, ideal. So just keeping all that in mind is really important. And I think it's really cool that they're starting to come up with all these new ways of creating clothing. Like some clothing can be made from coffee grounds, apparently, like milk proteins.
That's crazy.
Like they're making leather out of mushrooms and pineapple. And actually, like a cool one is plastic water bottles that I've been seeing all over the place. And I bought a bathing suit that's made out of plastic water bottles, and I was like, wow. No idea if this is gonna feel like plastic. Like, is it gonna
feel like?
It is honestly the softest material I have ever. Like, it's my favorite bathing suit now. It's really, well done, solid material that's not like flimsy or tough. Right? I absolutely love it. So I think that's amazing, and it's dealing with the problems of, all this extra plastic we have. However, the only issue is thinking about where that product's going to go after, because it's still made out of that plastic that's still So I think there's a catch-22 with those, but at this point it's still better than, apparently, cotton uses 25% of the pesticides. And so I think a lot of people thought, even myself, thought cotton was this amazing, eco-friendly thing. But now we're learning that even that has horrible negative effects on the environment. So it's just, I think it's going to always be a learning process. Sustainability and all that it's just ever changing, and we're all always learning, and no one's perfect. I just bought this shirt at Target. Like, it was like my birthday. I avoid Target, like, at now, just and big like stores like that, because I know I'm like so bad at. I used to be a horrible shopper, and I just, I don't even take myself in that environment now, because I'm really trying to be a curious consumer. So kind of, thinking about where that product's coming from, how it's manufactured, kind of that same life cycle assessment, but just making sure that it's produced the right way, and, taking all those factors into consideration before purchasing something, I think is really, really important, and something that we all should aim to do.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I mean, the way you're talking about it, I think oftentimes we think of things very linearly. But
Completely.
instead of like you said, like buying something with the intention that it's going to be cyclical is awesome, or like whatever it may be, maybe your intentions or whatever that you do produce. Even with your company, when you first started, I'm sure when you first started, you thought about where's this going to go? Like, what's the end goal of this? Like, are we growing from this? Like, what is this really going to do? Am I going to be the next target? Um, but I do feel I appreciate kind of what you're saying. And I think a lot of what's been going on with these conversations this month have been about like set your intentions before you start to move forward with anything. And I think a lot of capitalists and consumerism is very much impulse buys, and you probably won't wear it again, those types of
Mhm.
things. And it's very much in the moment, very straightforward, point A, point B. I'm going to wear this out to this event or this club or whatever, and I probably will never look at it again. Whereas now we're thinking about lifestyle changes, and that's why I really loved your story, because you mentioned sustainable lifestyle, and just the idea of how your environment kind of changes once you're able to kind of switch up certain things that you were doing. So I love how it's incorporated into fashion as well. I don't think I'll be wearing a plastic bathing suit. I mean, you got to show me. You got to show me.
It's really, yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah,
No, like
I gotta. Maybe we'll just all be out there in plastic. But yeah, you gotta show me how soft that is, because I don't mind. I don't mind switching over. I guess my biggest question is, what has been your hardest transition, um, into this sustainable life? What has been like your most difficult thing? Because obviously everyone's human, right?
yeah, I mean, I think the most difficult part is just not being, that consumer that just kind of impulse buys. And
Mhm.
I actually, as we all have Amazon Prime, I canceled my Amazon Prime. So
No, can I have your account? No, I'm joking.
You
I
mind
like
sharing?
I go to Whole Foods. I'm like, Erica, I need my sister. I need your account so I still get the discount. Like, oh God, no, it was hard because you think about something you need, you go on your Amazon app, and it's there the next day, and it's like,
Yep.
do I really need that? I mean, is it something that could wait, or I could, go buy it resale or used or anything like that? And so I think taking away those, and actually like Fabletics and Shoe Dazzle. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but they're like
Mhm.
the monthly subscription. Like Fabletics is for workout clothes, and it's to be able to make it cheaper for you to buy these workout clothes every single month. And I mean, I will give them props. They are, going more and more towards sustainability. But like, it's just, I know personally right now, I have like 20 different workout pants, and it's like half of them sit in my drawer all week.
Right.
I'm not working out 20 times a week. Like, it's just so unnecessary. And actually, since I moved back home, I'm living at my mom's apartment, and so I took over like the whole basement, which isn't technically a bedroom. So I
Right.
don't have a closet. So all of my clothes are just like on like a big clothes rack, and I'm just like staring at them, and I'm like, first of all, it's quarantine. Like, I'm wearing the same few things every single day. I don't need all this. Like,
Well, I mean, just a shout out, and I'm sure people that are listening probably can't see us, but we all look pretty good. So you look great. We look great. It's completely fine. Way to go. You're
my
welcome.
earrings actually I just got from my grandma. So that's
Okay.
kind of a fun little my granddad actually passed away during quarantine. So we're going through right now his whole house, and there's a lot of stuff, but I also was telling Caleb I want to start an Airbnb. So a lot of the furniture that I'm taking and inheriting is what I'm going to use for that. And I'm planning on, anything that I put in the Airbnb will be thrifted or, secondhand. So I'm really excited about, stuff like that just instead of going to the store and, spending so much money on a brand new couch, it's just not worth it. And I think it's really fun to find those things and even be able to have their background story. Like, I know in New Orleans, there was always like garage sales and stuff. And I found this really cool outfit, and they were like, oh yeah, that was made for this, show, this play and they used it for this. And it was like just so fun knowing the history, and it wasn't just like made in China and shipped over here. Like,
right. Yeah.
So
I hear you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I definitely go thrifting, or I've thrifted most of my clothes before all
Me
of this
too.
stuff. Yeah, man. It's
All my Hawaiian shirts.
it was originally economic reason. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if everyone knows on the show. That's why I haven't mentioned it in a while. But Caleb has an awesome collection of thrifted
I'm
Hawaiian
not wearing
shirts.
one today.
It's his thing, and so as
yeah,
you can tell, it's really awesome. So we always talk about his Hawaiian shirts that
I
he's
think this is
living on the beach in the Midwest.
in the Midwest, exactly. There's beaches everywhere in the Midwest.
Beaches everywhere in the Midwest.
I
But yeah,
hate-
but I wanted to target the other thing that you mentioned. You said what was so difficult for you, and I think this is probably difficult for everyone. It's kind of like this majority rules type of thing. The accessibility and the culture behind it, it's just not there. You have to be the hippie tree hugger to still kind of reach out and find the type of clothes and going thrifting. I think it seems to be a much more easier economic sell for people than like, let's save the environment. I'm more on the other side of like, hey, look, if we have nothing to save up all this money for, what's the point? There will be no planet if we don't take a step forward. But that's a whole nother thing. But people are more interested in thrifting because it's cheaper, not because it's worn and stuff. But that's interesting to think about the stories behind certain things, because much like our homes, like you said, like you said your grandfather, right?
yeah.
Well, your grandfather probably lived a very awesome, fulfilling life and has like all these memories and like these ideas and things that he didn't even want to let go in his own passing, because we leave stuff behind when we pass, and a lot of that starts to come to realize, like how you're sitting on your couch in the basement just staring at these like objectified clothes. It just becomes like this existential thing where like, am I my clothes? Am I like, am I connected to this
Is this
thing?
my identity? Like,
Yeah, is this my identity? I don't feel like red today, but I feel that. I mean, listen, I'm just imagining like having my little red dress just waiting there. No, I'm joking, but I think
I love you, Derek.
yeah, I mean, But all jokes aside, I just think that I like that image of you just kind of like looking at stuff in a different way, and not necessarily just as like the nicest thing or the most modern thing or the most hip thing that's going on, but almost like, when was it hip? I want to know. Like, when was this couch in its prime? Like, I want to know. And I think that's awesome, Elizabeth. So yeah, go ahead.
no, it was just that you're like this couch, and it just reminds me like my granddad's couch. Like these things were pretty awful. It was like this like puke yellow with like quail. They were like really like into like they went to Africa a bunch and actually were avid hunters, and so was my father. And so me and my sister, like growing up, were like, you're not allowed to do this anymore. Like, this is 100% not okay. We do not support this. Right. There's still, like animal heads like everywhere, and I'm like, why? But my grandma also had like beautiful fur coats, and I was trying them on and jokingly was like, I was made for this life.
Right.
But like honestly, like, as much as I don't want to support that, like I would rather honor that animal and honor the coat by still wearing it than, letting it just rattle away in the closet.
Of course. Yeah, throw blood on it or all that weird PETA stuff. I do think sometimes can be a bit overboard. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I by no means don't think any more fur coats should be produced. Like, I think we should be way past that as a society. Like,
I think so. Yeah.
But not everyone's there yet, so we'll accept that.
Well, and that's the thing about identity itself, is it's constantly evolving, and society is constantly evolving as well, and so our society unfortunately is not there yet, and we don't know when they will be or if they ever will be. But the biggest thing is that we have people like yourself, Elizabeth, that are allowing people to start to recognize the things that are occurring and are allowing us on a daily basis to realize, hey, you know what, we need to change. Things need to be different, and we can't have this anymore. We need to save the earth, because we're getting ourselves into a situation to where it is not going to be fun. And that's putting it very lightly, right? And we're already starting to kind of see that equation evolve in its own form. And that is scary. And it should be scary. And if you're not scared by it, I recommend you go research it and become scared by it, because it really is something that is quite scary indeed. And so, well, I think what you are doing, even if it's the smallest thing, it's like you are doing something. But I also want to say, because I know you mentioned this a few times, I just want to say this to you and anyone who's listening, all of our listeners, once again, you're listening to the Identity Podcast. Thank you as always for tuning in. But for all of our listeners, all of our viewers, and to everyone right here, even myself on the show, we're not perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect being, right? Perfection is not even close to being possible, nor will it ever be. And so we're constantly learning on a daily basis. So if that means today, you just put a huge emphasis on recycling, that's what you put on a huge emphasis on. But a month from now, if you look at your life and say, I need to do more, and that goes to being sustainable by thrifting or by wearing a swimsuit made out of plastic bottles, whatever it may be, it's the fact that you're doing it and you're taking that change. And there's no such thing as like, oh, I'm doing the full-on right thing, because even with sustainability, even with people that are very sustainable, and as such as yourself, who's getting into that lifestyle and trying to have a career around it and everything, it's like there's really no set guidelines. Oh, I need to do this and this, because I know several people even on this, who have been on this show before, who will admit, like, I like to say I do a good job, but there are things that I don't do great at as well, and that's okay. That's completely okay. Because I know Tarek and myself, we have plant-based diets. We recycle, and I do different things, and I like to, go and plant flowers and plant gardens and trees and everything. And I try to use my word of mouth as much as possible, but I know that there are things that I do not do well enough, and I still drive. I still use a car. I don't use public transportation like I should, and stuff like that. And we're all just trying to learn. I'm sorry I'm going on a huge rant, but I just want to assure you and everyone, like, it's okay. It's completely okay. And I think what you are doing is awesome and beautiful, and that's the whole point of the show, is talking about these amazing things that people all across the world, these unsung heroes, right, that are doing things. And so thank you, Elizabeth, for what you're doing, even if it's the smallest thing, or even if you feel like you are just starting out. Thank you, because you are doing something, and you are breaking the status quo, and you are putting a change to things, and that to me is honorable, and that to me is noble. So thank you. End of rant.
Right. Thank you. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to ask what you mentioned your company very quickly, but what was the process of you starting it, and what advice you could give to others to kind of start to make a bigger change?
Yeah, I mean, so I mainly started Hidden Gem Design Studio. I was just an LLC, and the main reason I started was because I was working remotely for the design firm that I worked for in Dallas. And as an independent contractor, I mainly started it for tax purposes, but I did want to, get into flipping houses and kind of use it for that. Unfortunately, once I moved to St. Louis, I wasn't really, and COVID hit, I wasn't really utilizing it at that point. And so my CPA was like, well, we'd either have to transfer it here for you to, still do it. And it just got really complicated. So I haven't gotten a new LLC here yet. But I do plan on doing that. And I think with the term hidden gem, what I was really focused on is finding those, homes that people like just drive past and they're like, oh, that should be knocked down, and really being able to bring it back to life. And I was also talking about the dog rescue. So I'm really hoping to be able to, you know, have a dog rescue, hidden gem rescue, where I'm rehabilitating these dogs that people are like, oh, like, is that even a dog? Like, I don't know where that dog came from. And, you know, just making it beautiful again. And like, I mean, it's always beautiful. Dogs are beautiful no matter what condition they're in. But I think it's just a really cool term of just, you know, preserving something that, you know, people may have previously overlooked or considered, you know, no longer worth anyone's time. So that's one thing I'm really passionate about. But as far, I mean, and you talked about a plant-based diet, and that's one thing that I am really trying very hard. I think for a long time, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, I didn't really see how just me switching over 100-pound girl, like I can't eat that much, like I do. But I was like, I love cheese, and I know like my body I'm probably like lactose intolerant and just all these things that I was not willing to accept that. But once I actually watched the documentary What the Health, and just kind of started researching more on how bad red meat actually truly is for you. And I think that point, when it came down to, you know, my physical health, as well as before, you know, I was always kind of thinking about the animals, of course. I mean, I've always been an animal lover, but once it came to my health, and then as well as the environment, like I didn't realize the environmental impact of, you know, just the meat industry and dairy industry. And so once I saw the full picture, I was like, there's no way I can continue to be part of this. So it's been slowly, I mean, my brother still loves cooking steaks and stuff like that. So it's very hard when he comes home with a steak and is like, Elizabeth, you're eating this. And I'm like, yeah.
I am. I'm eating this.
But I mean, as far as that, like other times I don't live around him and I eat, you know, Beyond Burgers or just any, I'm trying out new meat substitutes every day, and cheese substitutes. I mean, they're actually delicious. Like Beyond Burgers, I think are better than regular burgers. And I've just noticed I feel better. I mean, it has just been a full, like, eye-opening experience that I think a lot of people, once they get past, you know, oh, I can never give up meat or cheese. You know, once they think, I think you just have to think more big picture than just yourself and your love for meat and cheese. I mean, it's still really good stuff. And I mean, even if you still eat it a few days of the week, I mean, you know, of course, don't have to be perfect, but everybody being a little bit better would be great. And I think you guys talked about like Meatless Monday on a previous podcast, and I was like, that is genius. Like, if everybody did that, it would
change the world. It would change the world.
Well, that's something I actually recommend to a lot of my friends or people that I know that are interested in a plant-based diet. If they want to try it out, or if they simply are like, I don't think I can do it, I'll challenge them. I'll say, okay, say you do 3 weeks of Meatless Monday or a month, whatever, you know, and we'll just go from there. And I actually know someone who said, you know what, okay, I will try 3 weeks of doing Meatless Mondays, and we'll see from there. They started doing it every week after the 3 weeks. They loved it. Next thing you know it, they're doing it half the week. Next thing they know it, they just become a vegetarian. Yeah. And that, you know, and obviously I'm not saying, oh, you need to become a vegetarian, because it really is a personal choice. Obviously, if by doing that, there would be a lot more better things for our earth. But at the same time, I understand if you are not going to choose that for yourself. You know, it is a life choice. But doing a meatless, you know, doing a Meatless Monday, participating in Meatless Monday, it's one day a week, you know, and if you can just, you know, the biggest thing I tell people with Meatless Monday is like, do Meatless Monday if that's what you want to do. But remember, you still need to eat healthy. You need to make sure that you're kind of eating like someone who is on a plant-based diet, but you're able to implement that into your system. But no, I think Meatless Mondays are a great start. But at the same time, I think that anyone could go plant-based if they wanted to, and it's a great thing. But at the same time, if you don't want to, and there are certain religions or certain cultures where they do eat certain meats for different occasions, and that, of course, is completely valued and valid. And yeah, but I think I actually watched a documentary last year, and it was about if every single human being in the world went vegetarian, not vegan, vegetarian, we would be able to take back like 5 years of what we've destroyed the earth.
Yeah.
And that's within like 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll leave that for you. But
we'll start with Mondays, right? Yeah. I do think that people just don't know how to eat. That's really what it was. For me, when I first started, I definitely was against the cheese, but I love cereal. So giving up like a nice bowl of cereal has been a lot, but I've switched it over to oat milk, so I'm good. But
with like some fruit. Oof.
But I do think that, in that transition, I started to feel like the crazy sluggishness, the hunger, the zombiness of wanting to just eat flesh. But I think that it taught me how to eat healthier. So even if I like would go back to meat in some weird apocalyptic world where we needed to, I would still feel like I knew how to eat better. I felt like I never had enough water in my diet. I never had enough veggies in my diet on a daily basis, even if I was consuming meat. And I think a lot of us just don't. Like, chances are you probably just eat that steak and be kind of full, because I also have a very ectomorphic body as well, very tiny. So I'm like, that's all I really need. Little potatoes, little steak, whatever. For me, it's heavy on the starch, and that steak's not going to process until 3 days. So it's just like, you're not getting any nutrients really in that day. You're going to get a huge sugar rush from the carbs, the white carbs, and you crash, and you're going to think you're full. But really, your body's just going through this nutritional like weakness. So that's why it changed for me. So I do encourage you in that aspect. I mean, I supplement everything. I have like iron supplements and all sorts of stuff. I take moringa seeds, little stuff like that. So I got a little more conscious about what I was eating, even though I don't necessarily get on anybody about what they eat in particular, But I think it's awesome how this all comes full circle, because like you said, you're still in an environment where your immediate environment doesn't actually necessarily support what you're doing. And I think this goes back to the earlier statement that we have to be pioneers in this, like, and you're a pioneer in what you're doing, Elizabeth. And I think that, it's very encouraging to everyone, including me, and I'm sure Caleb, for us to continue to start and just move forward on exactly what sustainability means and what it means to be like a sustainable person, I guess, how to sustain yourself, on substance and what sorts of stuff. I do know that people moving from different climates have talked about it differently. Those that are closer to the equator, because I know a lot of Floridians that are just like heavy vegan, but they also warm all day. So it's like, they'll tell someone in Canada to not eat, meat, or whatever. I don't know. That's not my thing. But I think if we just kind of make sure that there's a conversation being had, just like this podcast, like we thank you for bringing your time with the show and letting us know everything that you're doing. Are there any other projects that you're working on or kind of about to start? Or
yes, so my last project that I'm like really excited about, so a lot of products are switching over to bamboo lately, if you've noticed that. I mean, they're coming up with toilet paper, paper towels, I mean, like brushes, makeup brushes, straws. There's just so many things that bamboo can be used for. And I'm really grateful to have a lot of land here in St. Louis. My family owns some property out in the country, and we're not utilizing it for anything right now. So, I mean, my main thing was the dog rescue, of course. Right. But on top of that, I started researching bamboo farming, and it's actually possible to do in the States. It's not very common right now. It's slowly getting more and more common. but I am slowly convincing my dad and all of my family to become bamboo farmers. And I'm very excited about it. I mean, bamboo just it actually creates its own pesticides, and I have some facts here that I don't want to mess up. So, it's antibacterial it has its own antibacterial compounds, so rarely needs pesticides. It's capable of sequestering carbon dioxide, which can help slow climate change. And it increases production of oxygen as much as 30% more than other plant species. And just as far as like farming aspects, I mean, it only takes one season for it to grow to its, full maturity. And if you sell it, then it just keeps growing and it doesn't die in the winter, and your profits just go up and up. So, I mean,
like the bamboo shoots. I said, much like the bamboo shoots, yeah, they're just going to keep growing. Exactly. So are your finances. So, it requires a lot of water, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think that is one thing that I have.
It's like growing rainforest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but
I might be wrong, but
it grows actually all over because
everywhere, right? That's awesome.
Research.
This is what we're talking about.
It's possible. Yeah, my dad's like, you need to do this research. I'm like, I already did it. I have the document. I'll give it
the documentary told me I can do this.
I don't even honestly
I'm about to be bamboo farm.
I think I got the idea because there was like this similar plant growing in a creek there that I growing up, I just always thought it was bamboo. So I was like, we can definitely grow bamboo. And my sister's like, that's not bamboo. And I'm like, oh, but I started researching it, and it is possible. People grow it here. I think the main concern is it can take over, and so you have to make sure that you like dig ditches and prevent it from, being invasive. But
it's gonna grow. That's not the problem, right? Yeah, that's good though. That's a good problem to have, right? Yeah, that's awesome. I love how you're researching new stuff. I mean, even the work that they've been doing with hemp and a bunch of other stuff, like it's a long time coming. Like I think a lot of what you're talking about are alternative methods to kind of move forward. Like a lot of us are stuck in our paradigms because we're used to it, So even with people, I mean, I don't really smoke cigarettes or anything, but even when people started to switch over to American spirits, I was like, yes, we're getting somewhere because we're actually getting something more organic, more, we're switching something that originally was very toxic. Not to say cigarettes aren't still toxic, but it had a different culture around it, and I think that's kind of what we're here for. We just keep changing up that culture. So I'd love to see what you do with this bamboo project, or you're going to be covered in bamboo. That's going to be pretty funny too. What happens? Let me know for sure.
It's definitely.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no! It's definitely revolutionary. I think everything that is occurring with sustainability, with the environment, especially with bamboo. It is possible. It's definitely like. It's not let's just grow it. It's definitely a process, but it's there. It can happen, and everything that you are doing as well, Elizabeth, is definitely revolutionary in its own right. And I think that's what's so awesome. And as we start to wrap up the show here, do you have anything else? I know with creative entrepreneurship, that's been something I know we've kind of touched on a little bit. You see yourself as a creative entrepreneur, and I think what's great is that you can take this entrepreneurship, it's creativity, but also tie it into sustainability and be able to, and that's exactly what you're doing. And when I first heard that that's what you were doing, I was like, that's brilliant. I never even thought about that. You can take these two passions, these two loves, these two things, and really bring it together, because in reality, you can be a creative entrepreneur, and you're creating things and you're starting things, but at the same time, you're also doing things for the environment, and you're giving back, and you're just recycling and all that. And I think that's really, really special. And so I guess what Tarek and I were trying to say is, do you have anything else that you'd like to say before, or anything you'd like to shout out?
So many notes. I didn't want to jump past her notes. That's why I was doing that. I also wanted to touch on the idea of sustainable houses. You definitely said some stuff about that. and also purchasing land. Anyone that's out there that's still thinking about that, very daunting task, but it will definitely help you in the long run. I'm sure her family took a big leap to do that. So, but yeah, what were we gonna say?
I mean, I don't really have anything else, but I just think
Okay.
that, I think it's important for everyone to really, reconsider what they're doing right now as far as the career, and really make sure that it's something that they're passionate about, and it's a sustainable in an aspect of, is it something they love to do, and is it something they can do for every day? Because so many people's careers, they're just draining them, and that's not physically sustainable. I don't think that's what anybody wants. So, I mean, and nobody's perfect. So I think just everybody, do the best they can, and try and always be earth conscious and a curious consumer, and, do what you can.
Could have said it better ourselves, for sure. This is Caleb, and no, I'm joking.
Thank you.
He does the thing. Do the
I'll
thing,
do the
man.
thing. Do the thing. No, that I think that's a great way to end it, Elizabeth. Thank you for that. Don't forget to go ahead and follow Elizabeth on all social media platforms. Check that out, Elizabeth_Lindburg. But yeah, definitely, I think that's a great way to add to it. Just being able to make some sort of change is important, right? It's revolutionary in its own right, and I don't say that lightly. I really don't. I promise. But I think with this episode, we've talked about all sorts of different things, but it's been fascinating, and we've gotten to know you better. We've gotten to discover your identities, I like to say, and we've gotten to really just hear about everything you're trying to do and the things that you hope to do, and it's absolutely beautiful. So thank you, Elizabeth, for coming onto the show. We greatly appreciate you, and really thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Love the podcast. So.
Well, thank you. And Elizabeth has become a big fan of ours. She's definitely been tuning into a lot of our shows, and that's awesome to know. We love it when our guests are really big into the show as well. So thank you for that. But you've been listening, you've been watching the Identity Podcast. Don't forget, we are presented by Find Your ID NYC. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, all the platforms out there. We're on there at Identity Podcast. Check us out. Don't forget to go ahead and stream us on all streaming platforms. You can check out our podcast, Identity Podcast. There, pretty cool stuff. And if you love the Identity Podcast, well, guess what? You can actually sponsor us. Email us at press@findyouridnyc.com, and for more details. You can check us out there. Don't forget to listen to the Identity Podcast on Brick Media for Brick Media in Brooklyn, Free Speech Radio, every single Tuesday. Really awesome stuff. Lots of new episodes coming out every single week. Check us out there as well. Well, we are celebrating Women's History Month in the month of March. It's been an honor to talk about environmentalism, sustainability, and we have one more episode for the month of March as we round out this amazing month that is March, and also Women's History Month. So thank you, everyone who has been on the show. Thank you, everyone that's been listening and watching every single week. We're so grateful. This has been the Identity Podcast. Don't forget, every Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, you can check us out live here. So check us out next Wednesday as we continue the series. It's going to be great. I'm a little biased, but it's going to be great. But definitely check us out there. Don't forget to check out our friends, Reverend Ivy Rivera and their Roots Revival Interfaith Church every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as well. Well, I'm your co-host, Caleb, along with my fellow and lovely co-host, Tarek. It has been the Identity Podcast. I hope you have all enjoyed, and we'll catch you next week.
Okay.